welcome to the...
Jack, just so you know, I've worked at this for 5 years. Just so you know, for 5 years.
How do you feel after that?
Honestly, depressed. Utterly depressed.
That's probably the perfect intro. Hello everybody, welcome to the Siege Show, presented by Jake and typically Guzz, but he's not here, obviously.
Hang on. No, if you look all the way out there, it bounces off a satellite and we might see him in Australia.
Maybe.
Because fuck that guy.
Unfortunately, Guzz, of course, has had some visa issues when it comes to attending Six Invitational 25, but luckily we've got some friends that are here to film. And
With Fresh.
Yes.
Fresh and friends.
Yep.
A little crossover.
This is the Jake and Guzz Without Guzz podcast / Fresh and Friends podcast at the same time.
Tell you
And we
what.
don't really know what we're doing. We're just going to have some fun. Obviously, Six Invitational, we are pretty much firmly underway now.
Yep.
Day 4's...
What do you mean pretty much? It's 4 days in. That's in.
That's pretty much it. Day 4's basically wrapped up. Day 5 tomorrow, last day of groups, which is going to be exciting because that's really going to be the first time we send teams home
Yep.
properly.
Yes.
Unless you
Yes.
take Joel, you've already...
And you already booked your ticket home.
Yeah. Before we get into SI,
A quick word from our sponsors.
a quick word from our Patreons, which, by the way, I do want to shout out our Patreons because they've been waiting a little while for content when it comes to the Siege show.
It's not good enough. And you know,
It's
just
not.
as the manager of,
As the Guzz for the show,
I will formally apologise. 1, for how shit of a caster I am, but 2, I will apologise. We haven't been formal enough with the content.
we haven't. Unfortunately, Guzz, of course, his issues means
We ultimately land here.
we land here.
Yeah.
But before we get into Six Invitational, Jack,
Yeah.
I know that obviously we're going to talk to you quite heavily about a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
But having Rob on the show for the first time means a lot to me.
The first time.
The first time on the Siege show. Thank
Robert Manic Monday.
you. Robert Manic.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Fresh and Friends.
Oh, lovely to be here again.
Again.
Now, Robert, Jay, Monday, obviously you've come a long way.
Jake, Xenox, and Diddy. I have come from Australia.
You have?
We are in Boston.
You have. Six Invitational, second
Yes.
one.
Yep. Second one in the
Do
books.
you feel like you're ingrained now in the international level?
I would say so, that generally you're ingrained when your talent members start bullying you, and I feel like that happened toward the end of SI24. So I feel as though I've made a connection with these people that is a bond that will last a lifetime. Jake.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
For those unfamiliar, of course, Rob used to be a caster. He was not very good at it.
I was honest. Can I just formally say, fucking not my career path. That was not the path I should have taken.
You became a host.
I did become a host. I did. Ultimately, I will say that it was because we had too many duos in the scene, and I felt I needed to pull myself out and give you guys the opportunity to flourish. Truthfully, I knew I wasn't going anywhere with casting, so I jumped ship to host.
Yeah, Jack, you've worked a little bit with Rob.
I have, yes.
How do you view him as a host?
Yes. Well, Montreal was the first day, and then
Yes.
the first time, and now Six
You guys
Invitational.
didn't work together in...
No.
No. So
we're talking
the
about
way they did that event is they gave 4 analysts the first half of the event and 4 analysts the second half of the event.
Yep.
Right.
And obviously Rob came out and did the first half of the event last
And they
year.
obviously got rid of him after.
Yeah, phase one.
then they got rid
Get
of
this
him.
guy
They were
out
like,
of
get
here.
him gone. Yeah, no, to be fair, he's very good.
Yep.
He's very good.
What can you say, mate?
Why is he very good?
Why is he very
What
good?
makes him good? What
Now
makes
we're deep dive. This is actually a performance review.
We're straight into yeah. You're getting fired. No, I'm joking. No, I like Rob. I think he's very, very easy to work with. He's very adaptable to how the analysts want to do, because I know that, like, obviously this week he's worked with me and Leo, but also Fox and Lex. They work very differently to how me and Leo do it.
Yep.
He's very adaptable to both, asking us how we would like to prefer it. And with a host, I think for me, certainly on the analyst desk, it's about the trust. Like, if I've got a good host, if I've got a strong host, I literally do not even look at a run of show. I do not care. I just trust that the host has their shit together, and then they're going to throw me the questions. They're going to keep me informed of if we're going long, if we're going short, whatever it is. And I have that level of trust. I had that level of trust literally from the first desk.
Yeah. And do you have that trust in me right now with the podcast?
In you? No.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this
fucking
is going to be over in 2 minutes or 2 hours, mate, honestly.
It's probably the latter, knowing Jake.
I will say I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think working with Rob, when we typically do Oceania together...
Best league in the world.
Can I just say, you're a suck. You're a suck.
Look, Rob's a good host.
I
Some would
appreciate
say maybe the best.
Some, I don't know who those people are.
There's only one host in the room who's done a major final.
Honestly, It's very fucking true.
How was
Have you
that?
done a major grand final?
I have not done a major grand final.
Have you done a major grand final as a host?
Oh, as a host, no.
No, well, then I must be the resident expert.
How was that for you?
Unbelievable. I was saying to Jack before when we were having a chat about it on his podcast, you can check that out at Fresh and Friends on YouTube and Twitter. No.
I don't have a Patreon yet.
Yeah, well, the Patreon's coming, but that's for different content. No, I was saying that the grand final was just an incredible experience because SI24 obviously broke in the mold a bit, figured out how the international analysts work, because as you would know, on the OS League, we don't really have proper analysts, do we? Vinny obviously joining in stage 2 of this year, but prior to that, it's just been you and Guzz. And
we're not analysts.
You're not analysts. You're not an analyst arsehole, I'll tell you that much. It doesn't come close. No, but working with proper analysts, I guess the prep that goes into it, the night before, the days before, the weeks before, it's very different. And I've obviously, I broke into the boots in Brazil, and then Montreal was an absolutely phenomenal experience. First time working with Jack and Leo. I'd worked with Fox and Lax before, so there was already a little bit of camaraderie there, but we picked it up straight away. It just felt very, very natural. And I said to our talent manager before we started that I'm just going in hands off. Like, I'm not putting any pressure on this. This is just going to be whatever it is.
Yep.
If it's absolute dirt, don't ever hire me again. Dust your hands clean and we're all good to go. And I think that helped tremendously. Just like no pressure, keep it easy, keep it breezy. And like I was saying to Jack as well, the best piece of advice I got for that event was Sir Ian Chambers basically saying, mate, the GOAT, the actual GOAT, just saying, take it in, like soak it in, because before you know it, the gold glitters everywhere and you're on the plane home, and he was smack bang on.
It's going to be the same again for this event.
It was.
I've got a question from our particular Patreon. Champ Ross has asked specifically
James,
towards
not
yours.
for you. Oh,
specifically to you.
shout out.
So the question is, how do you prepare for the post-game death segment on a close game versus a very one-sided game, or is it a similar, no matter how the game goes, preparation?
The truthful answer is there is a minute-by-minute breakdown that you have to hit for every show. It's not like you can cut desks short. You have certain ad breaks that you're going to need to get in there. So even if it is a stomp, you are definitely going to have to hit whatever that minute mark is. Whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes in the post desk, there are very particular segments that you have to get to. So in terms of how you approach it, it's very different. But I think Jack will attest to this. If it's a blowout, if it's a terrible game, the analysis is not going to be as deep. We're more going to be talking broadly about what happened and more broadly about storylines. But if it's a close game, if it's like a final and we're seeing it go 2-1 and things are getting intense, we're breaking down the individual moments that really made a difference, like the minutiae, the plays from the players themselves. So it's a very different approach, but regardless, you still have to hit the same portion of time.
Yeah.
I think just to add on to that as well is like, if you're looking at like a 7-8 or, it's got a max OT, this is such a shit buzzword, and I'm sorry, but you have to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
Does love that word.
So you literally, you sat there on 7-7 and you're saying if team A wins, here's what we're talking about.
It's a great
and
point.
if team B wins, here's what we're talking about. And you literally, like, up to the end on, you're like, scrap this, scrap that.
Yep.
It can be as close cut as that, whereas obviously, you know if a stomp's coming, you know if a favourite's going to win, more or less. And then you could start preparing throughout that period of time as well.
It's absolutely true. Yesterday we had Lax have, I think he had 2 clips for the telestrator. Both clips got binned because Virtus Pro lost their map. So that's a whole, like, of a 5-minute post desk, that's a whole 2 minutes of desk that you just lost because there's nothing there. And that's not to say that these guys can't fill that. It's not to say we don't have the questions for it. It's just like the priority list of what you want to go down in order to hit those notes. It just changes minute by minute, which is also a lot of fun. I love it. I live for it.
Lovely insight, by the way. I mean, we don't always get to, I think, from a fan's perspective, understand the workings, especially from the host and analyst.
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
the casters probably give a little bit of insight into their life, which, by the way, is a question from Champ Ross again. Which I'm going to put a twist on this. The actual question itself is, how much do you believe traveling to another country for a large event affects the casting style or the level that you cast at, and does that then improve naturally, or is it just, you're putting in more effort because it's a big event? And I guess you can kind of twist that a little bit for both hosting and analyst. Jack, what's your view on the question here, which is, basically, does the event affect your quality?
I think it, obviously, whenever you're doing the regional league, right, you're in the kind of mundane run of the mill, not mundane, but it's the run of the mill. You get into the flow state. When you're at an international event, you're obviously doing different teams.
Yeah.
You're doing teams that you don't normally cover. There's a level of excitement with that, especially if, say, an underdog team makes it, or there's a team that you don't really know. An example in this tournament, Raza H Company Academy, a lot of the talent won't necessarily know of those teams. You know the big international, the FaZe and the Furious, but when you're looking down middle of the pack Brazil, you don't know them. So there's an element of you have to get more involved. You have to get outside of your comfort zone. Maybe, speak to people, with a UL for me. I know the teams inside out. I know all the players. I know what's going on before it even, officially happens with roster moves. You don't know that at an international event. I think when you're coming abroad as well, it's a fully different environment as well. There's people face to face, there's casters, there's the green room. There's so much extra energy that I think that then transpires onto the broadcast.
Just naturally.
Just naturally, I don't necessarily change how I do anything. Apart from what I would say is you then become a bit more reliant on the network, being the talent and people that you speak to at events, rather than just your own individual prep. Like, for example, for me and Leo, we were covering Group A and C that happened at the same time every single play day. So we would do Group A, Day 1, Group C, D2, and so on. But we can't physically watch all of the games of the groups we're covering, so we have to go to the casters and the players and whoever else and be like, what the hell happened?
Rob?
I will flip that question. Uno reversing.
Oh, okay.
Crazy like that. I would ask you that question, being someone who cast probably the greatest game of Siege we have ever seen.
True.
And absolutely the greatest game of Siege, and not because you're casting, you son of a... I would flip that and say, for you, surely the SI Grand Final is probably the best cast you've ever given, and it's a mixture of the event, the people, the level of gameplay, the level of event, the prestige.
The crowd in that game as well.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I think that, answering the kind of question as a whole when it comes to casting, there's always naturally going to be that difference between, Playday 3 of the OS League versus doing...
Oh, come on, mate. Come on, I don't know about that.
Any major or SI game, even a group stage game here. And it's the same as well even at the event itself. If you're doing a group stage game, Phase 1, and then you're doing, say, the 6th Invitational Grand Final, there's more prep that goes into it. There's more prep that goes into it, and of course there's more quality that you want to get out of yourself to match the product. That's the biggest thing. I think that the traveling aspect of it doesn't necessarily affect it. Like in terms of me having to travel overseas or anything like that. If it was the same event but at home and I didn't have to travel, I don't think that changes anything.
You know what? I think it does. And the reason I think it does is because I'm fresh to the international scene. You're on event 16. You're on event how many with PUBG and Overwatch and everything else?
6 years.
So both of you have been doing this for a while now. What I will say is coming into this, going to Brazil, being flown 30 hours around the world to then go and do an event, that brought an element of prestige that will wear off with time. There's no doubt. I mean, it's even worn off in Boston. Like I got on the plane, again, my wife came with me, and it was like, blink, we were here, and it was like, cool, it's event time. No different for me. But I will say, definitely Brazil, 100% Montreal, being flown to a venue, being put up in the hotel, being around all the casters.
The first time is always going to be...
They say, Jake, they do say your first time, you'll never forget, mate.
First time is most special.
My first time was in Gävle, Sweden.
And his SI Brazil.
And his was Sao Paulo.
Melbourne, what are you talking
Oh, Rob. All right, let's move forward a little bit because we're not going to be here all night. Now, bringing things to 6 Invitational 25, obviously 4 days through now, we can kind of go a little bit through the groups and give our thoughts on obviously how things are tracking and whether we had certain expectations or there are certain teams that are underperforming on those expectations. Group A, very quickly. This is Group A, awesome. G2, M80, Unwanted, Team Liquid, and of course Team Joel, who have been eliminated.
Yep.
I mean, Team Joel, absolutely disappointing.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the biggest disappointments of the
A
event.
fall from grace, especially if you consider Bleed, their build-up into SI last year, their performance in SI last year. Ever since then, it's been quite disappointing to see that roster fall the way that it has.
I'm going to quickly jump in and say why I think is the biggest disappointment in the event is because when you look back at SI24 and what they were able to achieve and the progress they'd made, they were doing phenomenally well. They went to Manchester. Then Montreal stage 2 hits and nothing. They make nothing. They really struggle to get out of even Tokyo when they went to the APAC Cup. They really struggled. But for me, it's losing the coach. It's having to drop a player and pick up, Noodle, who'd only played one event.
Well.
They didn't have to drop a player.
No, they didn't. And they lose their org as well. So for me, not a disappointment as in I'm disappointed in them. I'm disappointed for them, for what they were. They were the team in APAC.
Yeah, it's like a good thing got ruined there.
Correct. Correct.
I think for those guys as well, you can't necessarily factor in the whole team getting sick. And I am just saying that, but if the whole team are getting sick and they genuinely looked like death as well, it's not even they've got a bit of a runny nose.
Unwell.
They looked like death.
Yeah.
And I think when that affects people's ability, their cognitive ability to think, and they're operating at a lower level than what they would normally operate at, and all of those circumstances that you mentioned, it was only ever really going to go one way in my mind.
Yep.
And it's a massive shame to see what was a very, very promising roster going back 12, 18 months ago, and maybe could have been one of the better APAC teams at any event.
Yeah.
Really struggle.
Yeah. To put a bow on it, was actually listening to Turd's stream, of course. Former member of Team Joel.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of drama around that with Corey as well on Twitter.
Saw that.
The biggest thing that I took away from it was the belief from Turd, which again, it's just from what I've heard, it was public, it was on the stream, is that the team could disband at the conclusion of 6 Invitational, heading into the rest of 2025. Yeah. Now, what that looks like, sometimes teams disband, but then half the team kind of stays together.
Yeah, core 2, core 3.
And I think a large portion of that is, and I think you might have mentioned it to me, Jack, actually, or just spoke about it naturally, but you've got Noodle and Leader, who are imports, but you don't have the money to keep these guys around. It's very likely they probably go back to EU.
I would assume so.
I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah.
I did not even think about
that. That's the thing. They're probably going to lose those two guys going back to EU, and then you start thinking, well, Hoven's a promising player. Reaps, a lot of Southeast Asian teams are going to want Reaps, and basically any team that can get him is going to want Reaps. And then it probably leaves Mentalist in a tricky scenario that if that team does split up, being honest.
Yeah. Very much going straight to you here for Group B, which is Team Secret right at the bottom of it. Now, as of recording this, of course, end of day 4, tomorrow is their big game. The viewers, of course, that may be watching this will have already known the result and whether or not they get through. But that is the question here, Jack. Do they get through against the AG? They need a 2-0 tomorrow.
It would be the most CAG shit ever to beat Furia, get a map off phase, and then ultimately get grouped.
Yeah.
It would be. Can Team Secret 2-0 CAG? Yes, they probably should. However, Secret are not playing anywhere near their potential.
Yeah.
I think I've always had this asterisk on Secret, and I love Secret. I'm obviously European. I've always had this asterisk that I thought they were maybe a little bit overhyped. There was people coming into this tournament talking about Team Secret as a top 3, top 4 contender, and they've come in and they've really struggled. Now, it is the group of death, I will give them that, and they are currently underperforming at this event. I do think there, however, was a level of overperformance during both of the majors this year.
Fair.
They're now hitting this kind of weird equilibrium that they should be good enough to get out this group. They probably will be good enough to beat CAG 2-0 and get it done, but I don't know, I'm just not sure.
Just the hilarity very quickly. Talking about Group B Death. Group B Death is on the screen right now.
Up here.
And Shopify, who have been phenomenal throughout the groups, are getting absolutely dribbled on.
Map as well.
They are getting dribbled on. They are currently 5-0 down on Cafe. It is. But I will also say, Shopify let slip a pretty decent lead on map 1 as well. So Group B is very interesting.
Goes without saying, Fury will win this series. They will, they obviously can't get groups, so no issues there. I know there was talk coming into today about the chance of Furia, the defending champions, could potentially have gotten grouped if this series had been a 0-2 loss. They play FaZe tomorrow, and then of course if Secret beat CAG, they could have actually got grouped, but
looks like they're okay.
Looks like they'll be okay.
I think they're good.
And thank God, by the way, because they're the reigning champions.
Exactly. Let's move on to Group C, which is a funny old group. BDS, Dark Zero, Razar Company, Falcons, and PSG Talon. A little bit to get through, actually, after today's game.
Yeah,
PSG
weirdly.
Talon,
I just don't know what to expect from APAC teams anymore. I used to feel like there was always an element of an upset, and then we came into SI25, and everyone got dumpstered on, and then CAG upset the world champions, only for APAC to continue APACing. And then all of a sudden PSG Talon today just turn their monitors on and they're competing all of a sudden. They're looking good. They're taking fights that APAC take. Like APAC don't take the calculated fights every single time. APAC are the region that do the unexpected shit that will fight you when you know they shouldn't fight you. That's what we've been known for, and it feels like we've lost a lot of that over the last couple of years. I would say PSG Talon have been a pretty big disappointment in their opening 2 play days.
Yeah.
Redeemed themselves a little today, but tomorrow they've got BDS.
But I'm going to throw this straight to you then you can, whatever you were going to say after that you can follow. But Dark Zero to me are like the APAC North American team. Because they've lost to Razar Company, right?
Holy shit, okay.
They then go and beat BDS.
Yeah.
Then they also beat Falcons, but it's 2-1. Then you got those
Then they lose to PSG. I don't know what the fuck's going on with them. I just don't. Like, they've got so much quality, right? And then I'm looking at this team and I'm seeing NJR and Pamba, which in that Canadian system I would say probably played a little bit passively. They've got incredible bags of talent, but they didn't show it as consistently enough. And I'm thinking, Kangaroo Kenny coming in, Kobe has a point to prove. Obviously, Bolo is literally one of the best players in the world. And I'm starting thinking, hey, NJR Pamba, get aggressive, get on it. And then, honestly, I think the biggest one today, and we covered that game today, Rob.
Yeah.
They looked like they were not enjoying themselves.
Did you say NJR?
NJR for the whole series, like especially map 3 was bad.
It looks like, and again, this is just a snowball speculation, but it looks like there's some kind of fundamental flaw or crack in that unit of people, in that collective of people, rather than like you can talk about tactics and siege and all that stuff, but it looks like there's something wrong there.
Do you think that Kobe Lax was a scapegoat? And now that he's performing, because he has been over the last couple of days,
especially today,
it may put the spotlight on others.
It's very hard to like, yes but no, because like who's the weak link on that team? If Kobe isn't the weak link, who is? Because you start looking at Bolo and you think about the incredible talent he's got, and you start thinking Nath, and I know Nath, and I've known Nath for a while now, really strong IGL, understands the game really well, you know, wants the best for his team. NJR and Pamba for me are like 2 of North America's best players. Like, where's the weak link?
So then why are they not getting the results? I mean, they are. I mean, we're speaking of Dark Zero.
It's 2-2.
They are through.
They're at 8 points. Obviously, they don't play tomorrow, so they will stay at 8 points. It's very likely they'll drop anywhere from 3rd to 4th.
They've played 12 maps across 4 games.
They've played 12
It'll
maps,
probably be a third. If I had to take a guess, it'll probably be a 3rd place finish in the group, which is fine, and probably reflective of just the amount of 2-1s they've had. But you can't trust them moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. And honestly, I've got no idea why.
Very quickly, I guess. I mean, PSG Talon surely don't beat BDS tomorrow.
You're saying surely.
They have to 2-0, and they have to hope Razar beats Falcons.
Oh, I definitely don't think they get out.
Do they have to 2-0?
Sorry, they can also 2-1.
As long as Razar 2-0 Falcons.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what? It's either PSG Talon or Falcons.
Yes. They go out.
Yes. Razar are confirmed.
I mean, yeah. Look, just to add on for the PSG stuff, they're going to regret this event regardless of what happens, because the reality is PSG Talon firing at the level that we saw them play today, and they were good.
Yeah.
They get at least maps, if not beat both Razar and Falcons, and we're talking about PSG Talon that's having a successful tournament, but they just shit the bed the first 2 days. Yeah. So I think probably BDS will shit all over them because BDS are such high quality, and that's the sad Fact. They had a great opportunity to be safe and through before they played BDS, and they fluffed it.
Speaking of shooting the bed, Rob, and I'm not...
I do on a frequent basis, but please.
Guzz.
Yeah. Have
they been the worst team of the event right now? They're at minus 20 differential, dead last, 0 points.
You know what? You take Joel out of it, absolutely.
They lost to 5v1.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen without there being significant issues. There is something that's going deeply wrong in APAC. Like, we've lost the confidence. We just have. We have. You look at PSG Talent, you look at Scars, look at Dam 1, all of these teams that used to be absolute menaces on the international stage. We've just lost the presence. And Scars, unfortunately, I came into this event really hopeful for Scars. First place in Japan for the last, four domestic tournaments. They've been to every international event since Copenhagen. They can't get the results, and it's just there's just a mental block. Yeah, it's a shame to see as well, because I think when Scars first came on the scene, they made that main stage in Copenhagen, and we thought, oh, so exciting. I think everyone thought at that point, we've got a team here that might consistently do this. Yeah, and then they've kind of floundered. I would say, like, my fundamental view of looking at Scars, and it's maybe a little bit flawed, but I do this with a lot of APAC teams, if I'm being honest, is I look at, like, if I put these 5 players up against these 5 players, take the strategy out of it in the maps, who's winning on the pure FPS element? And for me, like, I watch a decent amount of Japan League. Like, I know that they can play in Japan. Yeah. But in my mind, there are 2 great gunners on Scars, which is Rek and Nina. And Rek doesn't show up at international events, and that leaves Nina. Even if Rek did, can they, like, put up those numbers against a Furia, a Phaser, whoever? I mean, I know there's different teams in their group, but can they put up the numbers against a VP, an SSG? No. And even if everything else goes right, that's how I still look at them. And I think it was always going to be very difficult for them.
Unfortunate reality is the first 2 teams eliminated from 6 Invitational, both from APAC, of course, being Team Joel and Scars. You think about then the others that are still in contention, CAG, their life is up. They get to play for tomorrow. They do get to play for it, and they have been playing well. And even if CAG do get grouped, I think the sentiment will be a positive one, considering the group that they've
the quality of that group
would have to be.
Absolutely. Obviously, PSG Talent then being the other APAC team, and while they have to play BDS for their life.
You're just going to say no. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
What does APAC need to do then, heading into 2025 now? Because if you think back to 24, Jack, you had, at the time, Bliss and Bleed. Yeah. Felt like APAC was starting to make a little bit of a wave.
Yeah. I mean, the Bliss Chiefs stuff, and the Bliss to GG and then into the Chiefs. Now, obviously, Chiefs, I think, probably split the ticket a little bit in house. I think had Bliss kind of, and again, don't want to get too much bogged down in the detail of that, but had that have been one of the OS teams coming to SI, I think they probably would have done okay. Because I think both of those teams are pretty decent quality, in being honest. I don't know. I don't know what it is about APAC, because the quality is there with a lot of these players, but nobody's consistently stringing it together enough.
You know, this happens in nearly every esport. Every esport, APAC, well, let's say OS. Let's stick to OS as an example. They have really great players, and individual players on the right team do incredible things. JKS, Virtue, we've got plenty of assurances and proof that can happen. For whatever reason, international events, it seems like every team gets in their own head. There's a block, like there is a block the second they leave their region. And for me, I always go back to the conversation of, if all you're scrimming, if all you're practicing against is either other APAC teams or other teams in your region, there is a very, very small ceiling.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can't get to a certain point.
But there has been a lot of events over the last couple of years now.
Probably too many.
In the post-COVID era, I think the opportunities, if you're looking at teams like CAG, Scars especially, those those kind of teams that have been getting to these international events, whether it be a major or an SI, you think about even like EWC was essentially like a massive boot camp. I recall any of the teams that got eliminated early in the tournament, they stayed until the end of the tournament, which is not usually the conventional way. You know, if you are out...
Not for like
post-COVID, they send them home now.
Going home.
I saw Reaps with his suitcase earlier today.
So at EWC, they actually had the opportunity to stay there and scrim. Yeah. And even some of them chose to scrim at EU teams where the ping was only close to like, I think, 80 or 90 MS or something like that. So you're getting these opportunities. I think a lot of it, if you look at the Bleed and the Bliss situation, I think it just comes down to made decisions, and decisions haven't quite worked out for both of those two. But also at the same time, you think about the stability of some of these like APAC North teams. Like if you look at your CAGs and your Scars, their rosters don't change too much. And with that, then it's like, are you going to be able to ever take that next step? I think APAC's just always just going to be probably APAC.
Yeah,
they'll get a surprise result. Maybe one of it a year, someone might go on a run.
Yeah.
But it's never. I don't know if I'm ever going to see a team from APAC win a trophy.
Well, when was the last time we saw a team on stage? Wasn't it Scars back in Copenhagen? That is 6 events ago.
Yeah,
please.
Team Bliss did play on stage at EWC.
Technically, but you think about that. That is 6 ecosystem events. So events that give you SI points. That is 6 events ago that an APAC team made a stage. That is not good enough.
And before that was Yavla. That one here?
It would have been back in 2022 or 2021 when D Plus were doing.
So you're looking in a 4-year period. That's 2 main stages.
And it's not like they aren't trying to improve. I think Korea is actually the region that tries the hardest to get imports in, to do boot camps, to try and put funding in. You think about some of the organizations that are actually within Korea. Like there's this. Like, unfortunately, that's just a region also that doesn't have a good player base.
Yeah, they don't have the pipeline though.
Like they just don't have the pipeline.
I think for Korea. And this could extend to Japan, although I will say the Japanese players' kind of outlook on the game is a lot more relaxed than what it used to be. But I feel like Korea specifically, they put a lot of pressure on each other to perform. So when they come to these events, they're just like PSG Talent is the perfect example. You watch what they did in game 1 and 2, and you go, "What? Where is PSG Talent? Like this is Fabian's world 3 hammers. This is not the team that Fabian would create."
Yeah.
And you can hear him in the tack timeout. He's like, "Just fight." He's like, "Get in people's faces and fight because that is what we do best." I feel like specifically for Korea, there's just so much pressure on them when they come to these events that they want to do well that they end up just retreating back into a shell.
They also know that their opponents are high quality.
Unbelievable quality.
Yeah.
And I think naturally, just as any kind of competitor, when you know you're competing against someone who's really, really good and has that reputation, you're probably just naturally going to go a little bit into your shell.
It's the best of every region, right? It's not even just like it's literally the creme de la crop of every single region.
But that's where I think a region like North America doesn't have that issue. North America have that kind of cocky attitude, and then
they think they're better than they are a lot of the time.
No, but you know what? I think that's what APAC needs.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't disagree. I disagree.
I mean, so much of elite level sports and esports comes down to mentality, comes down to confidence, and
hey, as a great wise man once said, it's 95% mental.
95% mental.
It's
check up.
Still to this day, 4 years on, it is still abundantly true.
It is absolutely true, and I think that's where, like, if you look at EU and Brazil, I think the 2 absolute premier regions when it comes to Siege.
Without a doubt.
You know, that they have that mentality that they know they're good.
Yeah.
They can back it up and they've got that quality and they don't get stage fright. They don't worry about their opponents and thinking, oh my God, like, you know, if you're looking at a BDS and they're taking on FaZe, they're not looking at it as like, oh my God, it's Brazil.
Yeah.
It's FaZe. Oh my God. Like, you know, like, and I think that's where like APAC needs to try and get over that hurdle and have that cockiness. And maybe that's what was good for Bliss in SI24 is I think they felt pretty confident and felt like that they could beat these teams, and then they go and beat Wolves and they make top 8, and like I think that's a little bit part of it. But ultimately, as we look to probably try and wrap things up here, we're not going to be here all night, as I said.
I mean, we're here before the stream finishes, so, you know, like that's...
Oh, 7-0, by the way. Wow, there you go.
No!
Look at that.
Vamos. For the bingo.
No, that's going to be such
Hopefully we don't have any...
point.
This is no issue, is it? We're not going to get copyrighted by our bosses.
Surely not. Surely
Could you imagine?
Well, there you go. We've seen it live. Furia get the 7-0. Shopify Rebellion. Weren't they up like 6-3 on the first map?
On the first map, yeah. And then they bottled it. And then they were pretty close on the final round of the first map as well.
That's crazy.
The defending champions are back. Jack?
Yes?
Who have you got winning this event?
I think EU in this event.
You're just going to say someone from EU?
No, I'm giving you a team. I'm just building up the suspense.
Okay.
I'm just building up the suspense. No, I mean, look, other than Secret, I'm really impressed by our EU teams. Yeah. And I'm not saying they're going to win this event, but G2 have been thoroughly impressive.
I would, honestly, they've actually,
G2's not winning. So.
I've been through, and when we did the talent briefing and stuff, and we're talking about G2, and I'm like, G2 have got a lot of good signs, guys. And there's people saying, oh, I think they'll get grouped. Like, G2 are heading in the right direction. They might not win this event, but they're heading in the right direction. Yeah. VP looks strong. I think VP are a real dark horse for this event. And dark horse from a point of view that they shouldn't have even gone to Montreal. Like, they were so shit in stage 2. Like, so shit. It's like, I don't know. I think VP could win this event, and I would have to say who is winning this event is BDS for me.
Okay.
I don't think this fucking people saying, sorry, I keep swearing.
You can swear.
You're Aussies, you don't give a shit, do you? People keep talking about this curse, this best of 5 curse, because they've lost 2 finals. Nah. I don't subscribe to it. I think BDS are...
You don't give them the chokers tag?
No.
No? I do.
Yeah.
Who's winning this event then?
Genuinely, if I had to pick right now, I would probably say FaZe Clean.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to give them the chokers tag as well, it's also warranted. And I've always looked at this event as BDS and FaZe both have that tag, and it's a matter of can they remove it and can they get the job done and lift the hammer. You know, you think about FaZe throughout 23, how many semi-finals that they got so close, and then of course ultimately the grand final that they arguably should
the closest.
Yeah.
You don't get much closer than 6-1.
I think they've got an incredibly well-rounded roster where they're not reliant on one individual. I think all 5 players can play incredibly well. Handy's one of my favourite players. Watching him play, I think he's just so smart, and he's a big reason why they are as good as they are. If I had to pick anyone, I'd probably pick FaZe. Obviously, BDS is a solid pick. You can't go wrong with that.
You can't.
Rob?
I actually would have said that I'd back in Shopify Rebellion to at least make grand final, but after Fury just 2-0'd them in a 7-0 as well, I don't know. It's a weird feeling event. Like BDS are doing what BDS usually do, which is they start slow and they build into the event. I don't think you can realistically sit here and claim anyone other than BDS or FaZe, in my opinion. I think it's those 2.
I will say there's a couple of variables here. Is that I think there's genuinely 12 or 13 teams at this event that are similar in quality.
Yeah.
That, like, on their day could be anybody.
And then there's also the NA crowd buff that has to be considered going to phase 3. I wouldn't be shocked if even an SSG or a Shopify Rebellion
make a run,
get that crowd buff. You imagine that. Like,
what about Dark Zero? You left Dark Zero out of that one. What about Unwanted?
I mean,
you left Unwanted out.
Oh, you know I don't rate Unwanted. I think that Dark Zero, as we kind of spoke about them before, I don't know if I can trust they have too much inconsistency.
Sure.
Now, if they can find a level of consistency, I think the quality is there. I actually do rate Kobilax. I know a lot of people were giving him shit, and I know that, I can't remember if it was Fox and Laxing or you and Leo, there was a graphic about Kobe's performances.
It was us today.
That was the one today, but 2-3 days ago.
Yeah, we've done one.
There was one that
was brutal.
Yeah, there was a brutal one.
Yeah, we compared
from Montreal to the day
we compared
one.
Montreal to day 1.
Yeah. And then from day 2 onwards, he's been.
We gave him the praise. We gave him the criticism, and we gave him the praise.
You did give him the praise.
Very fair.
Yeah, very, very fair.
Yep.
But no, I maybe.
Would you say this is the most competitive SI that there's ever been?
I think so, and the reason being is I do hold FaZe and BDS as favourites, but I don't hold to be like a clear favourite.
Yeah, sure.
Sense.
We haven't even said W7M.
No, W7M or Furia, they're reigning champions. I think the one thing is with SI, and this happens at every single SI, because we head into a 16 team double elimination bracket.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It gets brutal, and I think that's the thing is like the way that will feed through. The group of death is going to send a great team straight into the lower bracket. We could end up with like.
So
there's a world where you could end up with a FaZe and a BDS in a lower bracket game in like round 2 or 3, and suddenly one of them's out.
Yeah.
Well,
untrue.
I think we can look to wrap things up for this particular episode. Thank you so much, of course, to Rob J. Monday for coming on to the Jake and Guzz show.
Thank you, Jake Xenox and Diddy, minus Guzz and Jack Fresh and friends, and thank you.
And our lovely crossover, of course, with Fresh.
Yeah. What about our social media manager in the corner?
Social media
hasn't even had a shout out.
Big thank you though, Jack, very much for letting us use your wonderful penthouse and all of your equipment.
I hope it works.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I hope it's blown up.
And a big thank you, of course, everyone for watching, tuning in. It means the most. Again, as always, when it comes to the Siege Show, we do have our Patreons. I don't think... Have you got a Patreon yet for Fresh and Friends? We'll get one.
No, I'm not
In the
capitalist.
meantime, before he gets one up, if you want, you could just subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah.
We can just, you know,
Or,
give you
hear me
more
out,
content.
you could just put money into my BSB account number. I'll leave it in the comments below.
You could do that.
Yeah.
You could do that. I hope everyone is enjoying the 6th Invitational. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.